Hello, everybody. Welcome back to Fourth Tier Fever. Hope you guys are doing well. Normally, I'd start with a pretty, pretty mental or just straight up talking like shit, like intro. But I thought we'd start off with giving this a little bit of airtime. Obviously, with the sad news that happened with George Baldock in the week. His shock passing has probably come as a surprise, a shock to everyone, and it's absolutely devastating news. It is 31 years old. I mean, a long history in the EFL. Most people probably know Sheffield United, where he played in the Premier League, and was successful in the Championship, and a few other clubs in the Football League. You know, the likes of Oxford, Northampton, I believe he was at as well. But his roots for where he started his career was at MK Dons. And I'm just going to pass it over to Luke because he's got a few things, but it's just truly sad news, just to say the least.
Well, yeah, I mean, it was heartbreaking news, especially if you're an MK Dons fan. You know, we've known, the Baldock brothers for so long. Both of them, their success has been absolutely huge for this club. And, he's been here for so many of our best moments. And, we're only a young club. But he was here when we beat Man United 4-0. He was here when we won promotion to the Championship, and I believe he's got more Premier League appearances than any other player that's come out of our academy. I would actually go as far as saying that he's one of the first MK Dons legends, and I hope he is remembered that way. And just to George's family as well, we send you our love and support at this incredibly difficult time. We mourn with you, not just for the loss of a great footballer, but also a great person. So may you rest in peace.
Let's talk football, shall we? We've got a full cast this week. Quite interesting, being the only winner here this week compared to all you losers, including Jake in the top corner. But we are joined with by Luke and Keiron for fuck knows how long. It could be 5 minutes because the absolute shambles of an internet connection that he has at uni. Me and Jake were literally here. It's what's it now? Just gone 5 o'clock. The England team news was released at, I think it was about 3:45. That's how long we've been waiting. So absolute farce. But how is everyone anyway? Because I've just lost the will to live in this last hour.
This was the issue, wasn't it? It was like, we'll meet together 4 o'clock, get it banged out in an hour, it's out at 5. It's now 5 o'clock. You all could be chilled, laying in bed, doing whatever. And here you are at the beginning of a podcast because apparently I can spend stupid money on a dorm room. The internet doesn't want to work. So cheers, guys. Appreciate that very much. Running now by a phone hotspot and living my best life, as you can evidently tell.
I'm not sure if it's really evident, but look, it's working. For how long? I mean, like I said, remains to be seen. But
hotspot's working.
That's the main thing. I mean, you've lasted longer than what you were on actual Wi-Fi, which is just glorious. I mean, it can't get any worse, but it can. It can. In the words of Mick McCarthy. I mean, we're just going on it from the start. I mean, this is already a total podcast. Luke, how's things? How are you? Quick move.
Yeah, I mean, I'll be honest, my mind's not really too much on the football. I wasn't at the game. Wish I was. It's one I regret not being able to make. But yeah, I mean, even with the England game and stuff, I was, I don't even care. The Greece one,
didn't watch it. Don't care. Haven't cared about the international break. I preferred that. In fact, no, I wasn't even watching the darts. I was out and about doing something. Recording a couple of vids. Actually, it was pretty cool. Jake, I can imagine you enjoyed yesterday.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun. It was. We'll get onto it later, but yeah, it wasn't fun. And I joined an hour ago thinking I can have to speak about it for a little bit, and I've had to sit here for an hour and contemplate the whole of the game. So that's nice.
You and me both, mate. It's been a painful hour. Again, we blame, was it the Uni of Cardiff's internet? Is it?
It's one of the unis in Cardiff, yes.
Yeah.
Not like the name of Cardiff Uni. If you just Anyone that's around Cardiff and knows any of the universities, it's not Cardiff Uni, it's the other one.
Yeah.
Didn't hear it from me, though. Didn't hear it from me.
I'll take your word for it. Right, let's crack on because we need to get through this. International weekend, of course, hence the talk of the England game in the squad being announced well over an hour before Keiron actually joined. I'll stop talking about that now. So, yeah, 10 games. We should probably start with the new league leaders, Port Vale, going top of the table after a 1-0 victory against MK Dons. It was a game in which looked an all right game, actually, for a 1-0 win. The winner coming in the 77th minute from Antoine Hatford. I've got to say, that ball in particular from Jack Shorrock is so satisfying. If you haven't seen that, it's an absolute peach of a ball and it's an absolute lovely finish. But obviously, Luke, the MK representative on that, I mean, you said you weren't at the game, but what you did see, what can you really take away from that one?
Well, yeah, from what I've heard and from what I've seen, this was a poor game from us. You know, the whole way through, and it's a little bit of a reality check. Obviously, well, I mean, we weren't exactly on a winning run or anything, but we were 4 unbeaten under Lindsay, and now he's here. But obviously, Port Vale are at the top, and you know, I think that's an indication of what you have to do to be up there, and it's going to be a case of we're not there yet. It's going to be a process, and you know, I think if you then isolate this result, it's a poor one for us. I think the nature of the goal was as well, although it was a very, very top quality ball, cannot deny that whatsoever. But defensively, it was a catalogue of errors. I mean, Tucker giving the ball away easily, Nemain then overcommitting and leaving Tucker exposed, who then have to overcommit as well. And then just a total miscommunication between Offord and Maguire. A bit of a mess. I mean, we did technically get 2 goals, neither of which stood, one for offside, one for handball. Again, don't know if they were the right decisions or not, but probably. But yeah, it's probably a fair result from what I've seen and from what I've heard. No complaints.
And as you've alluded to, Port Vale are now the league leaders, going very well, in fact, actually. Unbeaten in their last 7, with 5 of those being wins. Darren Moore, I mean, we know the team that Port Vale have were very complimentary of their summer transfer business. We know that Darren Moore is a good manager for League Two. It was interesting. I know we talked about this a couple of weeks ago in the other pod, but I say other pod. It was, well, yeah, the one we did the other week. I'm going mad. But it was on about, is Darren Moore, there's a certain star, I think, but, it's clearly worked in the past. He wouldn't have been a championship manager if this hasn't really worked. But we have alluded, obviously, I think the credit has to go all round at the minute, hasn't it? They're getting results. I mean, even maybe at times, it looked like they edged it yesterday. But even at times where they haven't probably played their best, i.e. against Accrington, you still got a result. I mean, they're on some form at the minute, aren't they?
Yeah, they struggled at the start of the season. It was a bit of a slow start. And we said after the Newport game that it could really push them on. And they certainly have done that. Obviously, like you said, they're unbeaten in 7 and won 5 in a row. So they want to keep that going, and it looks like they will.
What do you think is making Port Vale tick at the minute, Keiron?
It's a good question, isn't it? I think you've got a combination of things, and you alluded to, of course, crediting their entire team. Darren Moore, like you mentioned, he wouldn't be a championship manager if he hasn't found ways to make things work. But I think they made a lot of, like we mentioned, they made a lot of additions ever since coming down from League One last season. And it's always going to take time for a team to really gel and kick on. But I think this is where you give a lot of credit to Darren Moore and their management team. I just think they've glued together a lot quicker than potentially some of the other teams in this division. And it's meant that they've been able to kick on. And you look at the squad that they've got so many options for rotation to take each game individually rather than taking it as blocks of games. You saw that when they went from the Newport game, and then a little while later they went to that Accrington game where they really had to dig deep to get those final 2 goals. I just think they have a newfound way of getting results, and it's due to that squad jamming together potentially quicker than others would have thought they would have.
Yeah, and I think, it's a really good thing to suggest, because it certainly has been the case. I think we all pretty much expected Port Vale to be in and around the mix. I mean, looking at some of the qualities of their squad, you've got to think there's been some money thrown around, especially with them at the minute, with with how ambitious. I mean, now want to get back to League One as quick as they can, and they've certainly stamped their mark on things. Maybe you looked early on a little bit slow, although they did get a couple of results, but they're really starting to pick up now, and they look like a really tough team to beat. As for MK, I mean, Luke, I agree with the Scott Lindsay one. It's more of a project thing. I mean, he's not been in the job long, so obviously it's not gonna. It's not a thing that's going to change overnight, but it's certainly. I mean, there's some good. There's a good base there. I think it's a matter of time. I think it's just a case of when it will happen more if. I mean, I love Scott Lindsay. Did a terrific job last season, and he's just a terrific manager, and even more so a terrific bloke at the minute. So it will come. It will. I don't think there's much shame in losing that to Port Vale with the way they're going to at the minute. I don't think many teams will beat them this year. They just look a real solid outfit, and they look like a real difficult team to beat, and that's full credit to everyone. That's as I've alluded to, and I think that they found themselves top of the table. I mean, it's been a real good team effort so far. One team I did say would be unbeatable at the minute, if we're going back a few weeks ago, was I wanted to touch on Gillingham, because it was not long ago. We was on about this team, got some real attacking threat now. They can score goals. They can win games. They were doing that really early on at the start of around the start of the season. With some of their transfer business, didn't do a lot of it, but they were effective in what they did. And all of a sudden, they've now gone 3 games. They've now lost 3 straight games. You can maybe have looked at the 2 last week against Grimsby and Crewe. Maybe just put it down to a bad week and put it aside. I mean, next game they've got Accrington Stanley. Picked up their first win last week against Morecambe, who are not doing great, but we'll get onto Morecambe in a little bit, because I think they'd be happy for once. But at home, good opportunity to get back to winning ways. And I think if you're not an Accrington fan, I don't even think Accrington fans would have probably fancied their chances, if I'm going to be honest, at Gillingham. But they've come away with a 2-1 win, left it late. I think it was Darren Moore. He's having a good time of late. I think he was at Bradford a couple of years back now, but he's got a few goals. The Gillingham goal was a rocket. I'll give him that. I believe it was Armani Little. But it's a really good win for Accrington. I mean, if we're looking more of the stats as well, I mean, of course, football's not playing on stats, but it probably looked like they probably edged it at times as well. I do look at the equalising goal for one. It was poor from Gillingham, but I just don't know what's happening with Gills at the minute. As much as we probably have to credit Accrington for what looks to be a very good away result.
On the Gillingham front, it's first of all, brilliant finish by Little. I was very critical of his defending last week. Very, very, very good that time round. But they did let Accrington have far too many chances, especially at home. And, you can see that many chances, eventually you are going to get punished, regardless of who the opposition are. Maybe you could put it down to complacency, but the fact that it's 3 results on the bounce would suggest there's something else there that's just not quite right at the minute. And as you say, it was also a very poor mistake with the build up to that other goal. I think Morris probably played the wrong pass to keeper, just an unnecessary ball. There's work to be done there. They can fix it, but work to be done.
There certainly is, but is it more of a? I mean, we've sort of alluded to, if you'd maybe just gone, if you'd lost the last 2, you could probably just put it down to, these results happen. You're not going to be flawless every week. But with the greatest respect to Accrington, it was more of a game. I think was the perfect opportunity for Gillingham, with them being at home, with them being very strong at home this year. It just seemed like the perfect opportunity to maybe get something out of it, and they just didn't do that, albeit with a very late goal. So it's maybe a couple more question marks than maybe what is maybe a couple of weeks ago. I know it sounds ridiculously harsh to say, but I just feel like if you get to a point where I think any sort of result, I think needs to happen now. I think once you've lost 3 games in a row, you sort of just think, shit, we need a sort of result to stop this like little drop off, I think.
Yeah, I totally agree. They started off the season really well, and you want to say yesterday was just a bit of an off day, but when that's your 3rd loss in a row, that is a bit of a concern. Because if they have Bradford up next, and that won't be easy for them. If they lose that, they're suddenly mid-table, which obviously it's too early to actually start looking at the table properly. But it is still really concerning for them because they won't want to be mid-table, and they do need to turn it around quickly.
No, of course, and Bradford, as you say, Bradford's not going to be an easy game. They're a side in which full of confidence at the minute. I've had a couple of wins. I've had a good win at Tranmere yesterday, and you mentioned you don't really want to look at the table too much at the minute. It's sort of correct, but it's certainly one that's starting to take shape. We all sort of knew that Gillingham will be up there. I mean, they're 5th after 11 games. Still a long way to go. Only 2 points off of top spot, but you'd expect anything less than obviously a playoff spot is a complete failure for Gillingham with the money they've spent, with the players they've got. No, I think it's too early. It is too early to panic for them just yet. But I mean, 3 defeats in a row is not really a habit you really want to be in. And I think just any sort of result, even a draw, I think will go some ways, because at least you're then building up the little box. But we've got to give credit where it's due to Accrington, haven't we, Keiron? 2 wins on the bounce. I thought last week in particular against Morecambe already felt huge. And they picked up the win in that one. To then go to Gillingham, where not many people fancied them, with the greatest respect, to pick up a win, it's a brilliant result for them, isn't it?
Yeah, I think you've got to, if you were to look at Accrington in terms of just some of the ways they've played this season, you'd argue that a few of their results have been quite harsh on them. I think that they haven't actually played in terms of a team collective footballing effort. I don't think they played that bad. I do think it was just a situation of they were on a difficult run. It's hard to build, that motivation and momentum when you're narrowly getting beaten, or you're getting beaten most weeks. And very similarly to Morecambe, but we'll get onto them later on. I think that first win that they did actually get against Morecambe was the thing they needed to push them on. And don't get me wrong, I didn't think that by push on, it meant go to Gillingham and beat them. But I think you've got to give them credit massively, like you mentioned, just in the way that they've immediately responded to picking up their first win. And who knows if they can build a few, good wins out of this now that they've kind of got that monkey off their back of losing most. Who knows, that they could go up towards more mid-table and not have to worry about relegation. But again, too early to see, but massive credits to them for that result.
Yeah, because I think when obviously you've started the season the way they've had, to get that first win under their belt is vital. To then back it up with another victory against one of the promotion favourites, is brilliant, and it certainly goes a long way in terms of confidence. I mean, I do look at Accrington's next few games actually, and they've not got it easy. I mean, they've got Barrow up next, who will want a response after losing to Morecambe. We'll get to that, and then they go to MK Dons after that, and then they've got Walsall. So they've got 3 very tricky games. But you've got to play everyone eventually. We know that, of course, but certainly I think there's a couple of. I certainly look at Barrow, who their next game is, and MK. I think they've got points to prove. Walsall, probably not so much, but they're doing quite well as it is at the minute. They're very difficult games, but I think they'll probably feel that they'll go into it with full of confidence. They've just picked up 2 pretty good wins. I mean, the Joes. I mean, look, they're not the biggest team in the league, are they, Accrington? They're not the biggest by any stretch. They haven't got the most fancy players either. I'm not really convinced of their squad, truth be told, but you've got to give them credit where it's due. And, it's to go to Gillingham's great. Only the second team to beat them at Priestfield this season, or even this whole calendar year. Do you want me to say who the first team was again? No, I won't bore you with that. You've heard it enough. But no, credit where it's due. Good win for them. What is a good win was for AFC Wimbledon back at home. I mean, a few weeks away. I mean, with their pitch. I mean, they've done that really quickly, and they've picked up a 4-0 win on their sort of homecoming, so to speak. Matty Stevens with a hat trick, with an own goal in there, a 4-0 victory against Carlisle. There's a deeper discussion to be had with Carlisle, but I think for Wimbledon, I mean, it's their pitch issues are sort of stalled a little bit. The excellent start to the season they've got a fair few games in hand now because of it. But I mean, they lost at Salford last week, but I think they wanted a response, back in front of their own fans after a couple of weeks, and with their pitch dug up, and all sorted, it's the perfect return to home I think they probably could have asked for.
Oh yeah, no, it is, to be fair to them. And they were ruthless in this game. There's no other way of putting it. They were clinical going forward, and to be fair, I think they probably could have had more as well. It's a real statement to the league, albeit against a very poor side, in my opinion. But that's another conversation. Fair play to them. I think that's top quality result. 4-0 home win, all the rest of it. That's all you can really ask for, especially having had a few games out and certainly a few games more away from home as well. So yeah, decent result.
Yeah, just a couple of obviously games in which they're behind on. I mean, well, a couple more than others, obviously, with some teams in this. I think Fleetwood haven't played that many either, but I mean, they've got their main priority sorted. So hopefully now that they'd like to think there'll be no more problems, but we'll see how that gets on. There's a deeper discussion to have about Carlisle, though. We've said last few weeks that I certainly felt there was a mentality problem, and it's not really so much. It's just weak as piss, isn't it? I mean, Jake, you sent us a tweet in the chat about Carlisle's form dating from the start of last season. They played 65. They've won 10, drawn 10, and lost a staggering 45. Currently find themselves bottom of the league. Truth be told, without a pot to piss in, the goals were, I thought, they were horrendous on their part. And Mike. I still think Mike Williamson will come good. I mean, we could say that all we like at MK, but I think with Carlisle, it does seem a good fit for the future. I don't think so at this moment in time. If I'm going to be told, they need to, because clearly I've seen this a lot actually from some of Carlisle fans. From what I'm saying, he's playing a way in which doesn't suit the current crop of players that they've got at all, and I just don't. It's just this mentality. It's just weak. I don't know how else to describe it. It just feels like one thing after another for a minute. And at the minute, I don't know. I'm struggling to see positive signs that they can turn it around. To be honest, it's quite staggering with how well we thought we'd do with the money that they've spent and whatnot. But I don't know with them at the minute. I really don't.
Yeah. It's such a big problem for them because you see Forest Green went up, they lost heavily quite often in League One, came down and struggled again because of the culture. And it seems like Carlisle's going the same way, which you never really want to see. When Williamson came in, I did think probably not the right person now because they need someone that can just help them defend, really, because they've conceded 23 goals after 11 games, which when that's your average, you're probably not going to win many games unless you're scoring 4 or 5 a game. And although they have some good quality attackers, they're just not doing that. So they're struggling heavily. And I'm not really sure what the answer is for them.
I do sort of get the feeling it's a little bit like us last year with Mike Williamson at the minute. With the type of football which Paul Simpson was playing to then transfer to what Mike Williamson wants to do. Bit different for us with Paul Hurst to David Artell. Had this system of trying to play. Didn't work, if we're going to be honest, because we didn't have the players that are really capable of doing that way, or we're not good enough. And you really saw the effects of it. I mean, you can't brush under a carpet a 4-0 defeat in any level. And it's just like I just get that feeling of it just feels quite similar. Although I think Carlisle would have spent a little bit more, but I mean, their spell in League One last year was dreadful. They'll be the first to admit that. I think anyone would. It's, to be fair, I mean, they stank up the place, to be quite honest. But not as bad as Forest Green probably a few years ago, but they were terrible. I thought this year maybe clean slate, perhaps. Money they've spent, but it just seems to have carried on, and they found themselves bottom of the league after 10, 11 games that they've played. It's not a good look. What do you? I'm curious, Keiron. What do you think of? I think the stance of Mike Williamson at the minute, because I mean we've alluded to can come good, but I don't think. So maybe it's just screamed in the background or something.
I had a look. Something happened in the room opposite me, and then two, you were like, Keiron, I want to ask you something, and then for me, it just cut. Unreal.
It's just that. Oh, it's just a. This is a great podcast.
Yeah,
I love it. Yeah, I've forgotten what I was going to say now. Mike Williamson. Yeah, I mean, probably not the man for the here and now. More for the future, but I just wondering what your take on it was. Oh my god!
This is my issue, and I think it's a lot of people's issues when you talk about Mike Williamson. Is that he's inherited a group of players that doesn't suit his football. It doesn't. Within brutal honesty, did it really suit Simpsons? No, which is I suppose bizarre given how long he was at the club. I think Luke mentioned it a little while ago that they needed, if anything, not even just a style of football they needed to play. They needed someone to motivate them and get them out of that really bad ruts and that really bad, almost solidity and the ability to be comfortable with losing most weeks. And that's not what he is. Whether that's to say get him out the door, way too early to suggest, but for me, I was looking at the table and kind of looking at the way it's ever so slowly starting to shape up, and I did think Carlisle are probably the worst of that bunch, and now it's expressive in terms of a 24, which is bizarre given how we all credited them for spending the most recent January transfer window preparing for League One. And then bringing in some other quality additions. There's evidently something deeper than player and manager going on, but yeah, I don't know whether Mike Williamson, like we've mentioned, is a manager for the here and now. Definitely one for the future.
I just want to ask this question just to all of you real quick. Just keep it short and sweet. But I did see some fans probably alluded to it, and the more you think about it, the more it could be a possibility for them to sort it real soon. Are they in a relegation battle? I know obviously it's too early to say, but I reckon if they don't sort this out, if they don't get a couple of wins under their belt within the next 5 games, I think they very much are.
Yeah, I'd say they are already. Yeah, nothing major can happen until January in terms of outcomings or ingoings or anything like that. So that means Williamson's got to work with what he's got, and what he's got doesn't suit him. And as Keiron said there, he's not a motivator either, so he's not necessarily going to be able to get the best out of them. So I think they are in a relegation battle right now.
Yeah, I totally agree. You look at Morecambe and Accrington, and the results are close. They're fighting in games. Carlisle just seem like they're an easy pushover, and teams play them and get an easy 3 points and move on, which is a big worry for them.
Yeah, it's difficult, isn't it? Because it is so early on in the season. But like Luke alluded to, you can't make any changes until January. He's got to work with what he's got, and if they're 12 points in that bottom 2 by Christmas, it's going to be a real struggle for them to get out of it. So, I'd argue, like Luke said, they're technically in 1 now.
Yeah, I mean that's the thing. He's got these players until January at the earliest. And I just don't know how he can really get a tune out of him more with the style that he plays. But obviously, it's not down to it was always going to be difficult. He's inherited, a side that's clearly been used to losing, and you've alluded to that's not Williamson. But I mean, the players have been, I love a lot of blame has to go to them. you know, for the past couple of years, for somewhat this culture that they've grown into, and it's difficult to shift. It really is, and you know they've got to get their act together real quick, otherwise they could be fearing the worst. And you know it's awful to say because Carlisle's they're a good club, you know they're well backed, you know, and they're just a good club. I don't know much more to say, but they really need to get their act together pretty fast, to be quite honest. Otherwise they'll be in that position in which no one wants. We'll move the shift from them. We better talk about Morecambe, actually. First win for them. And who'd have thought it'd be away at Barrow? It's an unbelievable result. I mean, we always felt, I think in particular, I've always felt that Morecambe have been quite unlucky with a few of their results. Probably not so much at Accrington. But they've gone to Barrow, one of the best sides in the league, if we're going off, you know, the early season form, and they've picked up a 1-0 win. Left it pretty late, but they finally got that monkey off their back, and you know, they can enjoy a weekend for once. I think it's probably the main thing.
Oh yeah, no, I mean, if you'd have said like a couple of weeks ago, oh yeah, they're going to lose to Accrington, but then they're going to go and beat Barrow the next game, wouldn't have believed you, like at all. It's a really, really solid bounce back, and it's exactly what they needed. This gives them a platform that they can now build on, especially because it is quite a statement win. It's not necessarily like, I mean, it's a 1-0, and you know they've not exactly run away with it or anything, but they didn't need to. They just needed the win, and that's what they've got. I mean, my only real criticism really is more just an individual one. I have no idea how Dackers has not scored in that game with the chances he's had. But aside from that, it's 3 points. Something you can work with.
It just screams like a very Derek Adams result. If I'm going to be honest, lose to Accrington in what felt like a big game already down at the bottom of the table, to then go to Barrow and pick up a victory. I mean, it's just very them. I think it's just very Derek Adams. I think. I look at Morecambe's next few games in particular as well. They've got MK Dons next, then they've got Wimbledon, Chesterfield. You know, three difficult games there again, but it's got nothing to lose. I say nothing to lose. I mean, they've got games to lose. Of course, they can lose points, but I think they'll probably be going into it with probably a little bit less fear than I think maybe at times what they had. But although, as I've alluded to, I think they've been quite unlucky with a few results, if I'm going to be honest.
Yeah, they've been in a lot of the games they've played, so they should have no real doubt that they can go there and at least give MK Dons, AFC Wimbledon, get the AFC in before Luke complains to me, and Chesterfield. So they have no doubts that they can't actually compete in the game. So they've just got to go out there and just keep competing like they've done in other games. Yeah,
of course, and full credit to them. I do have to just look at Barrow. 3 defeats in the last 4, albeit 2 of them were against Gillingham and Doncaster in that hectic week where they travelled pretty much to the moon and back. I mean, they got that victory against Cheltenham, albeit late. Cheltenham were losing that, and I don't really think of much of Cheltenham at the minute, as we'll get to. I mean, to then lose at home to Barrow, so maybe them just tailing off a tad bit. I mean, look, not disparaging the start they've had to the season because they've had generally a very good start, but I'm just sort of wondering that, just maybe struggling a little bit, albeit I do look at the games against Gillingham and Doncaster, especially at the time that, they're tough teams to beat. But I don't know, it's a strange one for me, but I just feel that maybe, but not really so much to be scared of at the moment, but just a thought.
Yeah, I don't know whether many people would have put Barrow within the promotion race after they had so much kind of change at the club of obviously players, manager, and everything else in between. But I don't think you can, see the start that they had and then entirely write them off after a few defeats. I think every time you look at a team this season that has went on to secure promotion or anything along those lines, not saying they will, but there's always a period where they tend to struggle, and this could be that certain scenario, but it also could be, like you mentioned, because they've had some really tough games. it could be just a little bit of a fall off from them, and we could see them potentially drift off to about mid-table. But even then, is that an overly negative thing with how much transition they've had over the summer? Is a different question. But yeah, I suppose it can go two ways, but I wouldn't entirely write them off yet, because as you alluded to, the games that they have lost have been really difficult in a really short span of time.
Yeah, look, I think it's probably, for the start they've had, there is a sense of that they've overachieved. I don't think many people. I mean, look, we had them as low down as near enough in the relegation battle, I believe, but yeah, it was always going to be difficult once you've lost, someone like Pete. Wow, with how well of a job he's done, albeit it didn't have the best of endings with how they quite quintessentially bottled the playoffs. I think it's probably fair to say. In their last few games, it's a different man's come in, Stephen Clements, and started the season really well. Some really good wins in there, but it's nothing to really be concerned about just yet. But it's a sense of that they've overachieved. Now, I fully get on board with it. I think if you'd ask any Barrow fan, I think you'd probably might. I think they'd probably loved upper mid-table, if I'm going to be honest. I mean, look, if they get to the playoffs, then great, but it's the fact that, I don't... Look, again, Barrow not the biggest club in the world. Not the reason why they're up there either. I feel like it's been a little bit big. It's like, oh yeah, it's a small club, they're doing really well. But it's just, if you'd offered it, I think they'd probably take it. But especially at the start they've had, but yeah, maybe just a sense of could be coming back down to earth a little bit. I don't know, probably a little bit. We need to see what their next few games are all about to probably make that conclusion. But it may be just a thought that maybe could be creeping into maybe some minds in that. We'll have a look at one more game before the break. I really wanted to touch on the Chesterfield Notts County game. It looked a really good game of football, actually. Local derby, 2-2, against two decent sides going at it. Paddy Madden opening the scoring. Another goal for Lasana Jatta is a player that I really like. Just an absolute man-mountain of a centre forward he is. Will Grigg with an unmarked header at the back post from the corner, like 15 minutes left, and then the penalty at the right at the end, given for handball. I absolutely loved the crowd's reaction where McGoldrick's penalty was saved. And then he slotted in the rebound. It was just a sense of shit. I was a big fan of that, but looked a pretty good game of football, pretty even between two good, decent sides going at it.
Well, you've summarised it very, very well there. You've got 3 very good goals and a penalty rebound, but whatever, we'll ignore that one. But no, it's just 2 very, very good sides giving it everything. There's no holding back. It's just we're going to go all out to try and get this result. And it was a fantastic advertisement for League Two football. And I think, and it's probably the earliest example this season of that as well. I mean, hopefully there will be more games that are like that one. And I think it's a statement of intent, even though neither actually won the game. Both put in a really, really strong performance. I'd say Notts as the away side probably slightly happier with the result, just purely because they're away. But yeah, I think both sides can be pretty happy.
I think I'd probably agree with that. Last minute equaliser against your local rivals. I don't think. You prefer a win, of course, but to leave it that late, you can't really complain. Is that something you probably agree with? Probably Notts County the happier of the two sides, because that's certainly what I think, Jake.
Yeah, absolutely. When you nick a point like that, it's always a good point because you were moments away from dropping 3 points. They'll be happy. It's a good start for Notts, but 1 win in their last 5. They probably will want to turn that around a little bit if they want to stay in the autos and push Port Vale and Doncaster right till the end. But there's plenty of time left. Yeah,
they're certainly a team to watch. We've always thought they'd be up there. I think if they'd lost to Chesterfield, I don't think it probably would have been the end of the world. But it's the fact that, I'm saying it sounds horrendous saying that. I don't think I'll get the approval from Notts County fans saying that. But I just think, with the teams, Julie, 1 win in the last 5, I think it's said. they're starting to get into a little bit of a habit. Albeit yesterday, did well to get a point out of it. And it probably was deserved, actually, to be quite honest. But I mean, I look at their next couple of games as well. AFC Wimbledon, who we've discussed, have been very good in the games they have played this season, and Barrow, and then they've got Barrow after that. A couple of difficult games right there. So they need a couple of. I think they need 4 points. I think probably minimum. I think probably not should be aiming for. Whether they'll get that's probably a different story. I mean, especially AFC Wimbledon, they won't be any pushovers. I do maybe get the sense that Chesterfield, they're just getting results. I think they probably liked a few more wins. And especially, I mean, look at their last 5 games and they've drawn 4 of them. So they've sort of become like the draw specialists. I think they'll be quite upset in the manner that they've drawn the game yesterday. It probably was handball. I mean, he's just arm moves out like that. As much as it was quite somewhat fortuitous in a sort of way that a Chesterfield defender has just come, but it is handball. I don't know what his arm was doing up there, if I'm going to be honest. I mean, Paddy Madden took his goal really well. Will Grigg, suspicion of offside, but I don't think he was. If you could see the Notts County defender, I think his legs just sort of be in front of Grigg, so I think he's just done, if I'm going to be honest. He took 2 goals really well, but it's just turning those draws into wins is something, as of late, I think they're struggling to do at the minute.
I mean, we saw last season Mansfield were really good at getting bloody draws. For the first 18 games, they had drawn a stupid amount of them, 12 or something along those lines. So it's not the end of the world when you draw games. I think it definitely shows that you're competing and that you on a different day it could go your way. But I also think, and I do agree with you in the way that they would be upset in the way that they've dropped a few of the points, particularly to that Notts County penalty, tap in, rebound, cheer to complete sadness, which is just iconic football moments there. But no, I think they'll be relatively happy because the teams that they've faced have not been, not been easy. They've not been pushovers, especially considering this is their first season in the EFL in a good while. But I do think at the same time, they definitely could have merited probably at least an extra 6 from the draws that they've gotten. But it is what it is. It's definitely not the end of the world. And there's definitely the potential and the platform for them to build on if they just iron out a few things.
Yeah, I mean, they're not losing games, are they? But at the same, I think they probably locked a few more wins. I mean, you probably see some of the games that they have drawn. I mean, they picked up that brilliant win at Doncaster. I look at that Cheltenham game as well, for example. I think was probably a good opportunity to get 3 points there. Haven't done that. Bromley maybe, perhaps, although maybe them going away, you know what type of team Bromley are. They're going to be making stuff. Maybe could have got some, probably would have fancied themselves. It's just little things like that. But I mean, what have they won? They've won, I think, 3 games this season, or 4. I can't quite remember. I think it's 3. Us being one of them. But I say this every week. I don't think they deserve to beat us. I really don't. But yeah, I just think they just need a few more. I think they'll get there. They proved they can score goals. They scored 19, which is I think is the joint top. I believe. But it's just. Making sure that 1 point turns into 3. But I think they'll get there eventually. It's just, so let's see how long it takes. But they are a good side, and expect them to be probably in and around that area where the other teams are fighting. We're going to take a quick break. Once we get back, we'll probably discuss a Swindon win. That happened. Newport's keeper had a mare. And I get to laugh at Jake a little bit more. So we'll see you shortly. Welcome back to whoever's still listening to This is Forte Fever. Hope you guys really enjoyed it so far. Let's go to Swindon. Look, very critical. I've been with Swindon over the last couple of weeks in particular. I was last week with them at Harrogate. But they won a game. I mean, they've beaten Cheltenham 3-2. They were 3-0 up, nearly fucked it. I think it's probably wise. I mean, it probably if there was a result, I think if it was level to 3-3, if I could just find a single result that just summarised Swindon, it'd have been that. But no, they managed to hold on. I mean, they took the goals all right. I mean, Cox's first one was decent. The one from McGregor is a really good finish. Although if you're Cheltenham, I think you're not happy with the state with some of those goals. Did well to sort of claw it back to give him a chance to fight in for. But you've always got a mountain to climb when you're 3-0 down at home. But no, look, Swindon won. Good result against probably a side in which all with the greatest respect to Cheltenham, we'll touch on them a little bit. Clearly not the best squad in the league or anything like that, but you can only beat what's in front of you, and Swindon have done that.
Well, yeah, exactly. I actually think this game was a pretty good indicator of where both clubs are at. Really, it was a very messy game. It was very scrappy, and yes, there were 5 goals, but was there actually really any quality from either team? I don't think so, to be honest. I mean, yes, Swindon have pulled off the result just about. I mean, obviously, got to give credit to go 3 up. That's a really, really good position to be in. Obviously, at that point, what you don't do is you don't throw it away. And I mean, they very nearly did, which, as you say, would have been the most Swindon thing ever. But it appears that pigs are flying, so Swindon win.
And it's just getting that away win as well. I mean, their only victory this season was a 4-0 victory against Newport County. It's a shame that Keiron's probably not right on screen to listen to that, but I hope he heard it. Hello. But no, look, we all know it's been a difficult season for Swindon. I've been very critical on quite a few things about the club, players, management, ownership. But I mean, I think they've got to win, but they need to back it up. I think it's the sort of thing they need to do. It'll be very difficult to back it up because I've just seen their next game is against Doncaster, so it's a tough ask. But that's what I just feel with it. I just think they need to go on a little bit of form just to back results up, and I think a draw against Doncaster might probably be a decent result. But I mean, they're looking a game in particular the next week against Salford. Maybe a chance they could get a win out of that. But I just feel like there needs to be more at Swindon on top of the win, if that makes sense.
Yeah, totally. There's been a lot of poor performances recently, so a win is good for confidence, but they do need to back that up consistently and put a little bit of a run together that breeds that confidence back in the players and the fan base, because it feels like they're very disconnected at the minute. So if they can do that, then I have no doubts that they'll climb up the table.
Of course. And we need to touch on Cheltenham, I think. 21st, who find themselves in the league after they've played 11 games. They've had that defeat to Swindon. They've won once in their last 6. They've lost 4 of them. I don't think. I mean, we've discussed the turnover of players they've had. We've discussed Mike Flynn, and how much he's had to deal with there. But I just feel like, I said the other week, I just think this is what I sort of expected from Cheltenham with the greatest respect. And I just don't think, at the minute, there's something not right there. There's something clearly not working. Is it the players? Maybe. Is it the manager? Maybe. I don't know. It's really hard to pinpoint. I did see a fair bit of it on, I think, Gary Johnson, who I think has a role to play at the club. I think in terms of recruitment, I could be wrong with that. But it's just something's not right there is for me. And I don't really know where to start, if I'm going to be honest.
Yeah, it's a difficult one, isn't it? Out of the entire retrospect of almost similar to Carlisle in a way of you'd maybe not expect them to be fighting for promotion and all this stuff, given how poor their campaigns were last season to bring them here. But at the same time, you wouldn't expect them to be 21st in the division below. I think one of the things is recruitment-wise, I don't think they did really enough to improve on that squad from last season. If it was 5 years ago, then yeah, it'd be absolute quality in terms of the players that they've signed. But obviously, it's not the case anymore. And again, you can maybe talk Mike Flynn. He's had jobs that haven't worked for him in the past. Is it another one here? And then you then question, does he get another EFL job if he's sacked from this one? And that adds potentially a bit more pressure onto it. But yeah, it's a difficult one to talk about, isn't it? Because there's evidently something more than just the stereotypical player management problem. There's got to be something else in there.
There is, and we've discussed their turnover, and like, yeah, 5 years ago, some of the players that they brought in would have been good players. I mean, not denying that they are good players, because I mean they probably are, but they'd have been so much better, obviously, 5 years ago. There was a lot of experience in particular that Mike Flynn has brought in, but I just don't think there's that much quality in that squad. If I'm going to be honest, not now in particular with some of those players. And yeah, it's really weird. It's weird for them, but and quite a few people to blame for it. But I mean, you've alluded to Michael Flynn. If he gets sacked from this job, will he get an EFL job? I don't know. I don't know, to be honest. I mean, because it's not just one. This is his third club after leaving Newport. I mean, he's obviously been at Walsall, didn't do great there, and they're all right. They're quite well run at times. Swindon was a bit of a basket case. I mean, if truth be told, started well, but some of those results were awful and lost his job. And then it sort of just feels the same with Cheltenham. Again, not the most, they're not the club that's got the most cash or anything like that, or they're certainly not the worst run club in the world. But I just feel that I don't know with Cheltenham. There's a lot of question marks going through me, but ultimately it will probably bear on the manager. I mean, a lot of Cheltenham fans not happy with Flynn at all, and ultimately he'll be the one in the firing line. But I think there's probably a fair bit of blame to go around for the whole club. If truth be told, for some instances, but it's hard to really pinpoint one thing. But it's just like a couple of little things. I say little things, probably not, but there's just a lot of points in which you could maybe look at and think, right, okay, this is where they've gone wrong here or there or anything like that. But you can't be even with you can't be 3-0 down in any game, with the greatest respect, even to Swindon, with how poor of a start they've had this season, with the greatest respect. And they've got a mountain to climb. Did all right to sort of claw it back, but the game was gone, and Swindon sort of held out. But yeah, quite a few question marks in which I don't really know the answers to Cheltenham at the minute. But I mean, Swindon was about getting that win, and they certainly got that against a side which will probably be in and around where they are. Truth be told, that's just what I see. That's what I believe anyway. We'll move on from that. I'm going to touch on our game. Fuck it. I'm happy. I'm not sure. I mean, we've alluded to Jake for probably not being best pleased. Of course, if you didn't see, Grimsby went to Salford and picked up a 2-1 victory. Luca Barrington with both goals, one in the first minute of the game and one in the last minute of the first half, albeit the second one took about 7 deflections before eventually making its way in. The first goal was a really nice finish from him. Obviously, Salford did equalise about 15 minutes on the 15-minute mark with a Cole Stockton header. We're really sloppy, I thought, once we took that early lead. Went 1-0 up, and I think that 15-minute period when we did score before and then until Salford's goal, we're just really sloppy. We're just making just little daft mistakes. Probably not anything massively big, but just small mistakes just here and there. And it sort of felt like it was sort of coming in a sort of sense. That's what I sort of felt with it. But I thought after that, from half time, up until half time, I thought it was a very good end-to-end game. Actually, it was, it was a chance that Salford were going forward, we were going forward. Not really any too big a chance to the note. I just remember. I think it was. I might have been Stockton. I could be wrong, but I believe it was Stockton's. Like, he had the whole goal to aim at, and he somehow hit it nearly over the away end, which was I don't know. He's not even hit that on target, but Luca Barrington I thought played very well yesterday, and then obviously got that goal just before half-time. Great time to score. And then that second half, Salford were all over us, to be quite honest, but it was one of those performances in which I thought we actually defended really well again. It screamed a little bit like Gillingham. I think the two are different because I think Gillingham, I didn't think they really offered anything. I thought we did well to shut out their main threats. With Salford, they were properly coming at us. I mean, they hit the woodwork a few times. Jackson Smith, our emergency lone keeper, made a couple of very good saves to keep it out. Like Doug Thorne came in and I thought he was absolutely terrific. He headed everything away. But the weird thing is, it feels weird. Even though they hit the woodwork a few times and they had the better chance. I can't really recall the chance we had second half, to be quite honest, but it felt weird because I never really felt threatened by Salford. And you can probably see why that they've scored the second fewest goals in the league. I could perfectly see why. They were very wasteful, Salford. I think probably Jake will be one to admit that. Very wasteful. But I think as an away performance goes, I think it's what you want. Proper dogged, proper, difficult place to, and probably difficult at times, but it was just a proper away performance, one where we had to really dig deep. And to be quite honest, I think we deserved it. I think we just about deserved it, just on our defensive, performance alone, because we were very good. If truth be told, there was a lot of pretty good performances out there again. And that's now, 4 wins in our last 5? 3 wins away from home. We only had 2 wins away from home last year, one of them being at Salford. Just a few cool stats I saw. It took us until the end of December last year to pick up 18 points, I believe it was. Oh, no, to pick up 6 wins it was. So it took us to the end of December last year to pick up 6 wins. It took us to, I think it was the start of mid-November last year to pick up 18 points, which is currently on now. 4 wins out of the last 5. I mean, we was on about, we've alluded to the fact that we struggled, backing up victories. We've not had many back-to-back defeats at the minute. And then this sort of form. Who'd have thought bringing on David Artell on the pod? Next thing you know, we've gone and won 4 of the last 5. Surely we've got to take a bit of credit for that. But no, it does feel like a pretty good time at the minute. And 11 games. I am more than happy with the start that we've had. Goal difference separates us from the playoffs. Only 3 points off the top, I believe. We've played 5 of the top 7. I think we've got Walsall next week, so that'll be 6. I cannot complain with the start we have at all. I think it's been absolutely brilliant. And a lot of those players have to take a lot of credit. David Artell, I think, has to take a lot of credit. I think we needed some sort of response. Obviously, last week was a disappointment, but I've always felt if we'd got something from the game at Salford, I'd have been all right with it. And we've done just that. There's a lot of people to play, there's a lot of players to praise, but ultimately, for an away performance, I thought it was fantastic, and I actually thought we probably deserved it on the balance of play. I'm bigging ourselves up, future League 2 champions in the making here from the start of the season. But no, look, really pleased. I'm not sure what, obviously, you guys. Jake, we'll probably start with you. I want to know your perspective for it because, I'm just curious.
Yeah, we've played a lot worse in games and won, which is the frustrating part. But it's just like you said, it's been wasteful. We've scored 7 goals in 10 games, and before the season, Carl Robinson was saying how he want to score 100 goals when at the minute it doesn't look likely that we'll get 50. So we just got to keep continuing, just keep trying. And our next 5 are Crewe, Swindon, Colchester, Fleetwood, and Carlisle, which you'd hope is 3 wins, and if not, then there could be some question marks asked.
I tell you what, though, I had a good laugh at Carl Robinson last night with his interviews. I mean, you sent the one in the chat for them. I think it was for Salford to be the one on. I believe it was BBC Radio Manchester was even more funny. It was just the one where he was on about. I think it was the penalty. I think it was on Kelly and Mai. Was it? It's not a pen. It's just not. He's dived. It's like, wind your neck in, pal. But. No, that's what I think anyway. I mean, people might think differently, but I thought it was a clear dive, I'm going to be honest. And the ref wasn't falling for it. I mean, the ref was poor. I mean, look, no denying that. He's booking Lewis Cass in the 37th minute for time wasting. I mean, like, what? It's 1-1. We're not time wasting. We're not like, come on, it's 1-1 in what was at the time a bit of an end-to-end game. And yeah, I don't know, a couple of questionable calls in there. I mean, a couple of good challenges in there from some of our boys. I just remember Tyrell Warren coming on straight in there with some of the challenges. My God. But no, I mean, it's all right for us, isn't it?
Oh yeah, no, it's decent, to be fair. I can't argue too much with it. Just to bring it back down a second, though. Don't keep
Don't
critical. No. I will say the equaliser initially, that was very scrappy, very scrappy. Now you could have cleared that about like 5 times. There comes a time, even as a possession side, where you've just got to get rid. But aside from that, it was a very strong performance. And yes, you've conceded a lot of chances, but you've got away with it. You've dug in, and you've got the away result. And ultimately, that's what it's about. You want to come away with the 3 points in those sorts of scenarios. Not an easy place to go. Obviously, Salford haven't necessarily scored much, but they have defended well at home. So to go there and win and get a couple of goals along the way, it's exactly what you want.
Yeah, I think. I mean, you alluded about the goals we've conceded. We have conceded a lot, but to be quite honest, you can't really pinpoint many of them in our defence. It's because it's actually been quite, especially Cam McJanet. I mean, he's been faultless, and you can't really blame any goals that we've conceded, maybe him or even Doug Tharm, to be fair. But it just feels weird. It was a bit of a poor goal to concede, especially with that save from Smith, and then it just gives Salford the opportunity to recycle the ball in straight to Stockton's head, and that was maybe the only disappointing thing. But look, I'm not getting too down over that at the minute. But Keiron, just quick thoughts on Salford, real quick, just on them. Another defeat. It's sort of they're mid-table at the minute, and it just sort of seems a bit. Yeah, if I'm going to be honest.
Yeah, it's not ideal, is it? I think that they've had a run as well where they probably could have justified on paper getting more points and getting more goals towards the 100 mark, I suppose. But no, I think there's a few things wrong. I think they approach games with they almost seem to have 2 ways of playing, and they almost tend to do the wrong one every single time. But no, I suppose, because of how well they've done in recent seasons, the playoff season and whatnot, there's high expectations, but I think there's almost a positive opportunity for them to not have as many eyes on them as they've had if this season doesn't exactly pan out too well for them. But yeah, it's not been a great start for them, let's be honest. But like Jake alluded to, they've got another kind run in front of them, so there's definitely a chance for them to get back on track.
Yeah, I mean, if I'm going to be quite honest, it did sort of took me by surprise a little bit with how well at times they did play. As I've alluded to, I just thought they were very wasteful. They had a lot of chances, but didn't really, just didn't really feel that threatened. They've hit the post a couple of times. One was quite lucky because it came off Doug Tharp, and then obviously one not so far at the end. But yeah, nothing that spectacular other than that. There was one obviously very early on in that half where Smith pulled off an exit save, but other than that, not really much else, if truth be told. But no, look, great win for us. Look, I'm just trying to make it last at the minute. 4 wins in 5 in the EFL is a little bit of a rarity at the minute, and we're just outside the playoffs. This is completely alien to me, so I'm trying to sort of enjoy it while it lasts at the minute. 3 games to go. We'll wrap through these very quickly. Tranmere, they're a bit toothless. Bradford, they've got Andy Cook, who's just inevitable. Bradford winning 2-0. Cook with a brace. It's just inevitable, isn't he? Is a good old Cookie.
Well, yeah. I mean, ironically, it was his striker instincts that I think Tranmere have been missing all season, really. He's had 2 big chances, and he scored both. The first of which, by the way, lovely finish. Very, very nice. I mean, they did still concede a lot of chances. I do think a better side would have punished them. I do think that's happened a few times this season to Bradford, where they've conceded a lot of chances, but for whatever reason, the opposing team's just not finished them off. So maybe a little lucky, but they'll take it.
Maybe, but you've got the players. Ultimately, it comes down to obviously who's going to step up and make their mark in a game. You can say pretty much in any game that if you're Bradford, you back Andy Cook every day. Obviously, we know he's got very good striker at this level. I think he's easy top three. Sound like the Panthers, easy top three. Bradford's position 16th. I know that was the god. I'm really bringing myself up and but no, that's sort of just what I get from that. With Tranmere, I don't really see that. They're just a bit toothless at the minute, is what I feel with them.
Yeah, absolutely. It's scored 5 in 10 is so far off what they would have hoped. There's just not much going forward and stayed the same way so far and can't see much improvement.
And I didn't really see this really coming. Like, I know that they had the season they had last year, and I think probably a lot of that was probably put on Rob Apter with the season he had. Terrific season with them. Now they've lost him, and as I said, I don't think they've really replaced him. I mean, I was listening to Nigel Atkins' interview yesterday. I might be wrong, but I'm pretty sure he alluded to playing Amari Patrick as a wing back. I mean, if that's the case, I mean, what on earth? Just from that alone. But it does feel like he is sort of just trying stuff at the minute. It's just not happening for one reason or another. I mean, look, Cook, 2 brilliant finishes, don't get me wrong. That second one, I think Tranmere will be disappointed in, albeit, the player slips in midfield, doesn't he? And it just left Bradford to go on the counter. Then, once you get the ball to Cook in that area, he's probably not going to miss. So I think probably the manner of the goals, in particular, I think Tranmere will be not happy with. Even that first goal was a little bit scrappy before Cook got that shot away off the edge of the box. But it's another game without a goal for them. Lowest scorers in the league with 5. They find themselves 19th. There was high hopes for the season going. There was high hopes going into the season for people for Tranmere, but they've just not hit those heights at all at the minute, anywhere near. To be fair, just not sure what you were thinking.
I mean, it's ignore it. It's another cutout on the internet because it's brilliant. But I think most of you actually put most of us rather put them quite high up the table, pushing towards promotion. I think when you look at their squad, I don't think there's too many questions as to why they wouldn't be able to achieve that. They've got a lot of balance. They've got a really good manager who's been really successful at this level and higher levels. So they've got everything placed for a good season, but like we mentioned, they lost a couple of players, I suppose, if you want to put it that way, over the summer that were really impactful. Rob Apter, of course, being the main one, and they've not really clicked as an attacking unit yet. But I don't think Omari Patrick playing left wing back is exactly the solution. But we'll have to see, I suppose, because they have to change something, don't they, to end up getting the ball in the back of the net.
Yeah, I mean, Tranmere on paper, solid squad. I don't see much sort of like match winners in it though. I just don't. And the more I look at it, I think I sort of looked a bit naive with the fact that with the manager they've got, and look, my manager has done a brilliant job last season with the disappointment that Tranmere had at the start of the campaign. So then had them sort of a little bit. They didn't really threaten the top 7 by any means, but they did sort of pick up and had some really good results. They were much better. But this year, it's just not happened at all. I mean, look, we know that they've not exactly conceded that many compared to, but goals win you games, and look, 5 goals already this season is a huge concern. And at times they've not really looked like scoring either. That's the worry. I think they play Bromley next, which is probably, to be fair, probably not the most ideal opponent to play, if I'm going to be honest, because they've gone quite a while without a win. They'll probably be up for it. They can see what suspect that Tranmere have, and we go there right afterwards on the Tuesday night as well. So I'd back our chances to get something out of him. If I'm going to be honest, we'll probably concede. I mean, we always do, but I just don't see many winners in that Tranmere squad at the minute. As in, mainly match winners. But I mean, look, Bradford got the win. Probably, I mean, look, 2 good finishes from Cook eventually, but and they've walked away with 3 points. Doncaster Crewe 1-1. 2 sides that they've had decent, have been all right, especially well, I say as of late. Doncaster had a few. Had a little bit of time where they didn't really pick up a couple of wins, but back-to-back wins for them. Heading into this one in Crewe, I mean, they've won more than obviously they've lost. I mean, they had that 4-match winning spell, which was ended by Newport. There, I sang your praise at some point in this, but I mean, they obviously bounced back pretty well with a win against Gillingham, 1-1. But 1-1 it finished. Conway with the goal for Crewe, and it was Cal Hurst with the equaliser. Didn't really seem like a great deal in that. Stats wise, Doncaster had more of the ball, had more of the chances, but yeah.
Well, I mean, I actually think both goals were very good. Actually, I mean, I was very impressed with the press for Crewe. It was a very good move, and then it allowed Conway to run through, do a little bit of magic, and I mean that's a great goal. And then with Doncaster, I think we've seen a trademark Doncaster goal. So quick from back to front on the counter attack. It's 1, 2, 3, 4 goal. That's it. You're not stopping it when they're moving at that pace and they're moving at full speed. You're not stopping them. They'll maybe be a bit disappointed that they didn't take more of the chances to finish off the game, but at the same time, it's a solid performance, and it's performances over results for long-term success, and I think they're on the right lines there.
You've alluded to Doncaster's attack. That was one thing in particular I was really impressed with by Doncaster last week when they beat us 3-0. It's just how they attack your numbers and the speed they do it. They know when to do it. They know when to obviously release the ball. They look a really good side at just pressing it up front. I mean, with the players they have got, Gibson, Molyneux is easily one of the best players in this league. He's a joy to watch on his day. You got the experience of someone like Billy Sharp, albeit probably not in amongst the goals as much recently. He's still got a good role to play in that. And a couple of other players. I mean, look, I think for Crewe, probably the draw's not the worst result in the world. I think, the fact that, they've had some good results as of late. Going to one of the favourites for promotion and picking up a draw, it's never a bad result. I think maybe for Doncaster, I just think it just seems a bit fair all around. I think I'm probably looking at it. Doncaster, good. We all know they're a good side coming up against Crewe, who have done very well as of late. I just think it just seems a bit solid for both, to be quite honest. I don't think there'll be too many unhappy, if I'm going to be honest, amongst the fan, but I don't know. That's just what I feel with it.
Yeah, you can never be not happy going to Doncaster and picking up a point. Not many people are going to go there and pick up a result. And then they'll obviously feel lucky because Doncaster had a number of chances and they had one disallowed. So it's never a bad point going to Doncaster. So it's got to take the point and move on.
Kevin, quick word on Crewe. Obviously, you beat them not so long ago, as we've mentioned, but they have been on pretty good form. That result aside, they've had some good wins, some really good wins. In fact, against the likes of Gillingham last week in particular was probably the pick of the bunch. But I just feel they look a good side, don't they? They look a good side. They'll probably give it a go. I mean, Lee Bell certainly got his act together from the start of the season, which was kind of miserable, to be quite honest. I think the first few games which just started, but they've really got their act together. And I don't think you probably complain too much with a point away at one of the best sides in the league.
I mean, yeah, you're not going to complain. Also, I'd like to mention we beat Doncaster not that long back either. Beat both.
Oh yeah, just get that one in there. Yeah.
I'm also going to throw in predictions from this week's games. If you follow us on Twitter, I've been near enough spot on. Predicted this to be 1-1. The Tranmere Bradford game 2-0. Incredible. Potentially the most wise football expert of all time.
I predicted us to beat Salford 2-1, by the way.
Yeah, well, there we go. If we combine all of them, maybe we've got a perfect game week somewhere.
Yeah, should probably do that.
Saying that, did anyone predict Accrington to beat Gillingham? Probably not.
No.
But yeah, I mean, you got to give them credit, and I think this is largely where they benefited last season. Is that obviously they started off really well, and that's I suppose what you expect, and you're included too now with a Lee Bell side. I think the important thing is that if they are to drop points like they did against us recently, is that they bounce back from it. I think that's the important part, because we saw it last season where they got very close to dropping out of playoffs despite how cemented they were in it, just because they ended up losing a game or dropping some points and then not being able to respond. So it's beneficial and an improvement definitely as we look at it so far this season, that they're able to respond to defeats well and pick up points in really difficult games.
Yeah, they're just a good team, aren't they? And I've sang Lee Bell's praises, although not long ago we was having this discussion. Oh, could we get sacked here? I mean, it's making us look a little bit stupid at the minute. He's a top manager, and I think the players have to take a lot of credit for this sort of turnaround, but also him as well. But yeah, I mean, no, it's a solid result. It's a solid result. I don't think they'll be kicking off too much about it. There's one more game to go through, and we sort of left this one till last because, quite frankly, looking at highlights, it looked by far the worst. Harrogate 1-0 winners against Newport County. The game was decided by a Jacob Carney mistake. He just dropped the book. It looked really poor on showing. It was a game in which wasn't probably glittered with chances. Harrogate probably had the better one. I think it was an instance in the second half where they worked it really well. Had that shot off it. I thought it was a good save for it. But it's a defeat for Newport. I think probably a poor one in the grand scheme of things with the goal, if I'm going to be true.
Yeah, do I have to talk about it?
Yes.
All right, fair enough. No, to be fair, and I understand why we've left it last. There was literally that chance that was developed by a Jacob Kearney mistake. I like to have a very small piece on him, not criticising him overly, because he's come from playing in the 3rd division of Spain, if I'm not mistaken, which is such a bizarre move in itself. And he's not had too much time, I suppose, to integrate himself within the team yet. I think one thing that a lot of people have noticed is every time he plays, he's very prone to a mistake. He had that one yesterday that evidently ended up costing us the game. He had one against Cheltenham where it's probably more of a mistake from Anthony Glennon heading him back the ball than him picking it up outside his area and getting sent off for it. So, that's an interesting one. And I believe the other game was our 4-1 defeat to Leighton in the EFL Cup, something on those lines. And yeah, it's difficult. I think it's really difficult for him to break into this team regardless, other than when Nick Townsend's on international duty, because he's such a good goalkeeper. I think if he didn't play for Newport, he'd be a lot more seen as one of the top keepers in this league, because he saves us more often than not. But yeah, back to the game. I think there was one chance we created, and it's so stereotypical. It's a Kyle Hudlin header, if I'm not mistaken, that kind of just goes straight into the hands of the goalkeeper. Other than that, flat creatively, which is, I suppose it makes a little bit of sense because we've been without Anthony Glennon for this game, picked up 5 yellows in 10 games.
I mean, I'm not surprised by that in the slightest.
Yeah, we missed out on him. Townsend was on international duty. There was someone else out, but I can't quite remember who it was. But we went from the Bradford game where we created about 1 billion chances and couldn't quite finish them, to this game where nothing happened and it was just really flat. But I'll give credit to Harrogate. They saw the mistake and took advantage of it. That's how low the bar is for giving credit today. And yeah, that one chance that they ended up creating was well worked, and I believe it was, to give credit to Jacob Kearney, I believe he saved it very, very well. So I'll give him the credit. Who do we have next? Chesterfield, I think it is. Deary me. I don't know. It's a reality at the minute where I'm not distraught, because we knew there was going to be patches in the season of roughness, but I think just having a week in Yorkshire was bad enough. Never mind picking up 0 points. There's my summary. You'll go on, Jacob Kearney, lads. Redeem yourself soon, my friend. I'm not going to be the one to sit here and give shit because it's not going to help. I believe he can turn good. He just needs more opportunity to do so.
No, and I do understand where you're coming from at times with that. I think it is difficult at times for perhaps a backup keeper, especially when you've got a good number one in front of you, to maybe come in and make an impact in probably a short space of time. Where for one reason, for any reason that your first choice is out. I mean, both of ours are out. Both our goalkeepers are out. Full stop at the minute.
But all up to Townsend. He plays for Barbuda. So,
ours are just primarily injury. Eastwood's pretty much season. So, look, but no, I can understand it's maybe difficult, but it's just not a good one to. I just think. Look, I think the Harrogate play was probably he was well alert. I think to it, but it's just not doesn't make for good viewing if I'm going to be truthful, and to lose the game on that is probably a disappointment. But I mean, Harrogate are a weird side. They're just fit, and we've discussed how maybe inconsistent that they probably are this season, or maybe throughout their time in the EFL. I think it's probably just been the story of maybe Harrogate, but they've got another home victory. I mean, they beat Bradford recently, although they got hammered by MK. But it could go a long way, maybe not, but you never know. It could be one of them.
Yeah, I mean, for me, it was just a nothing game, to be honest. That Harrogate haven't had to do much to win. I don't think they've performed particularly well. And I think, you were saying, Keiron, you were saying about Hudlin's chance. That was the only shot you had on target. And there lies the problem.
I saw a shot by the way, I think I saw in the highlights package a shot from Bryn Morris, going to probably on its way to, somewhere in Scotland. I think it was probably one of them from what I remember, but no, yeah.
Yeah, no, like I said, there's just nothing to it, really. You'd hope you'd bring more, really. Like I said, against Harrogate, that probably weren't looking that good. You'd have hoped to at least get a point. So I think it's disappointing. For Harrogate, I don't think they should be happy either, to be honest, because I don't think they performed well. So, happy with the result, but in the long term, perhaps not so much in terms of performances.
Yeah, probably not too much more for me to add anything. Jake, any thoughts? Just real quick.
Yeah, it's a good win for Harrogate, and I'm sure Newport will bounce back. I think you summarised it really well.
Yeah, because sorry, I'm just so off putting with Keiron's dancing in the bottom corner.
AFC Wimbledon, pass it on.
And on that note, we'll end it there. Thank you guys for listening. It's been great to talk to you again. I'd have liked to have done this an hour ago, but circumstance got in the way. Thank you guys for listening as always. Make sure you go and subscribe to our YouTube channel, follow the Twitters, download the podcasts, any all sorts of stuff that we'd love to hear your thoughts on the game. Be sure to DM us or put in the comments or whatever you fancy, really. Anything from you lot before we head off? I should probably head off pretty quickly because my dad's been texting me for about 20 minutes. He's kindly made tea tonight, so I think he's getting pretty pissed off. Anything from you lot, real quick?
Yeah, no, just thank you guys for the support as always. Just keep tuning in and keep interacting with us, and we'll do our best to bring you all the best content we possibly can. I'll try to say that with a straight face.
Says that while laughing at make sure to like and follow, like and subscribe, depending on which platform you're on, for more incredible internet and the Feed the Dream episode, which has been this one, where Luke has given praise to AFC Wimbledon. I think that deserves a like and a follow alone.
You heard the man. Anything on your side, Jake? Just anything at all? It doesn't have to be a thanks.
We're 6 subscribers away from hitting 300, so let's see if we can hit 300 after this episode.
There we go. We'll wrap it there. Thank you guys for listening. Take care of yourselves. We'll be back probably next week with more League Two drama, where Hopefully Walsall doesn't beat us 6-1 again like they did last year. That'll be pretty mad. That'll be pretty depressing. But yeah, we'll wrap it up there. Thank you guys for listening. We'll see you next week.